YouTube, what's going on? While I was out sick, the last week or so, I was still going to work in class. And so we had class last week, or 2 weeks ago. And me and my boy, another black dude in the class, we were talking afterwards, and we were talking about just the whole idea of accountability and shame in the black community. How can you get that back? Like, how can you reinstill the whole idea of shame and accountability? Because they kind of work together. Okay? Wherever there's shame, there's accountability. They're almost interchangeable. So how can you bring that back to the black community? And, we both agreed on the whole idea that comes from your home first. So if your parents haven't instilled shame, in terms of who you are and accountability, then your larger culture cannot do it. Okay? Your parents have to put that in you first. Think about it. If your parents haven't instilled shame and accountability into you, then how can some stranger come through and do that? It makes no sense. It's like a parent is afraid to discipline their child, yet outside people are supposed to feel okay, right? It doesn't work that way. So, we then started to talk about the whole idea of there's really nothing you can do. Okay, we talked about how sometimes in the black community we spend so much time figuring out how to compensate from what you can only get from parents. I'm all for coming up with new ways to, help people grow, because you don't necessarily need to get everything from mommy and daddy or just from one parent. Okay, you can get it from outside sources, but the vast majority of what a child needs to be successful has to come from the parents. So if parents are not there, it sucks, but there's nothing you can do, right? Your hands don't reach that far, right? It's above your pay grade. Okay, so you can want to help all you want, but you can't. No one has the level, no one has the clearance that a parent has with their own child. Okay, but people in the black community want to feel like everybody has complete, total clearance to do whatever they want to do with any child they see on the street. Hence the whole idea of, the older blacks saying, we have to go out and tell these young black boys to pick up their pants and, tell these black girls to stop wearing their booty shorts. You can't do that. You don't have that level of clearance. The only way you can do that is if their parents do that. Okay, if I'm on campus and I tell a boy to pick up his pants, the ones who, don't have mommy and daddy around, the ones who haven't instilled that whole idea of shame and accountability don't do shit. Okay, but the ones who do will pick their pants up. And it's sad to say, but I could walk around, any campus and simply tell the boys to pick up their pants. The ones that do probably have some sort of shame and accountability. The ones that don't will pull them right down or won't even do anything. That's how it is. So, I think we need to get off this whole idea of trying to somehow get clearance to something that is only reserved for mommy and daddy. Okay? So we moved on from that. So then we were talking about, well, what else can we do? Because if we just say the parents have to be the initial people to instill shame and accountability, then it's a done deal. Especially when you have the majority of black children being born to only one parent and being born into a situation that's not necessarily the best for raising children. You might as well close the book and move on. So, we were spinning our heads, and I told him that we have another alternative. Now, it's not the end-all be-all, and I'm not even sure, to be real with you, how effective it would be. But to me, it has everything to do with our history. Now, what's missing from black history in America is success, okay? Not the success of white people, okay? How many times a year is there some movie, that's based in the 1940s or the 1950s where it's white people helping out black people? Right? They have this new movie coming out, The Blind Side. And it's about some big football player dude pretty much being nurtured by a white family. And that movie is kind of like an example of what I'm talking about. All the stories that black success that we hear come from what? White people. So if white people aren't involved some way or form, we can't be successful. And our history, in terms of what we learn in terms of black history, is all about that. It's all about us asking white people to change, and white people changing or making some sort of change so that we're doing better. Okay, hence the whole idea of not having accountability and shame. Okay, because if your happiness and your success is based off of other people changing, then there's nothing you can do about that. If they have to change, you don't have the power. Okay, and this is probably we know one of the secondary reasons to why we don't have shame and accountability, because we're not asked to be successful on our own. It's always based off of white America. All the negative behavior that exists in white America, right? In black America, there's some PhD out there in a book who has, somehow connected it to slavery. And since we didn't control slavery, how can we control how we act? Hence the whole idea of no shame and accountability. But what I'm saying is, why not talk about our complete history? Why not talk about, and it doesn't have to be in great detail, but why not, talk about how we as black people had our own towns across America. Some were great, some were in the middle, some were small. Okay? But they were there. You do a basic Yahoo Google search and type in all black towns, and you'll get some websites that will let you click on the state, and it'll show you what black towns were in the state. So if you can click on California, they'll tell you California had X amount of black towns. Now, of course, there's not a great deal of information on these different towns. A lot of them, especially the ones that were successful, somehow seem to get destroyed or ran down by white people. Okay, and the other ones kind of disappeared when, the whole idea of integration came up. So they were kind of just absolved and taken over. So there isn't a lot of history, but to me, the true power isn't knowing the details. The true power is knowing that they were there. The true power is knowing that at a time where the law pretty much gave white people the allowance to mistreat black people and to even kill black people without being persecuted, we were still doing well for ourselves. So we were able to say we were successful without white people there. Think about it. I told you guys this before. The owner of my barbershop, he always talks about growing up in Arkansas, in the town he grew up in, and how he never came across white people until after integration. So up to that point in his life, growing up as a child and a teen, everything he knew was black. Whatever he needed, and it wasn't, some, luxurious life. Okay, it was meager, it was modest, yet he still went without need. Okay, and everything that he needed, another black person provided it. That's powerful. Think about it. Just think about the power. If you told today's black America that black people in the past, prior to the whole civil rights movement and during the civil rights movement, had our own where white people weren't involved, what are you doing? How can they refute that? How can they somehow come on and try to act as if blacks during those times had it easier than blacks now? How can they prove that blacks during that time had an easier task at having shame and accountability and, getting the job done than blacks do now in 2010? When their resources were limited, education was limited, opportunity was limited. How could they do that? See, the problem is, you try to compare black people now, and they'll find a loophole. So if you try to say, oh, well, the Mexicans are doing this, and the Asians are doing this, and, other people are doing this, they'll find loopholes. Okay, there's some PhD out there that will find a loophole and say, hey, you can't compare. The whole apple versus orange, banana thing, you can't compare those three, they're different. But to me, when you talk about what blacks were doing during those times and what blacks are doing now, you're comparing an apple to an apple. And to me, our apple is more fresh than theirs. Okay? relatively speaking. No one's trying to take away the struggles that are going on in Black America as far as 2010. But at the same time, the only way you can ever say that blacks in the past had it easier, okay, is if you just don't know what's going on or you're lying, because the evidence is almost irrefutable. And to me, it almost forces people to deal with the whole idea of shame and accountability. So, that's my take. Like I said, I don't know how, impactful this would be, but it's just an idea for thought. You guys take it easy. God bless.